So let's talk about something you've probably felt even if you couldn't put your finger on it. Technology just keeps getting faster, smarter, more powerful, but for a lot of us, our paychecks just don't seem to be keeping up. Well, that's the big puzzle we're going to unpack today. This strange disconnect between America's incredible productivity growth and the flatlining wages for the average worker. A story that really kicks into high gear in the mid-1990s.
This right here is the question that's been hanging over the American economy for more than 3 decades now. I mean, the pie got so much bigger. Innovation was everywhere you looked. But for so many people, it felt like their slice just stayed the same size. So where did all that new wealth actually go?
And here's that paradox in a nutshell. On one side, you have this absolute rocket launch of productivity. Right after 1995, digital tools let us create more value faster than ever before. But then on the other side, for most working folks, that explosion of wealth just didn't translate into a better standard of living. This is the disconnect we need to figure out.
All right, so to really get how this happened, we've got to go back to the source, the engine of this whole change, the absolutely breathtaking speed and scale of the digital revolution.
You know, what made this revolution so different was just the speed. We went from these massive, room-sized mainframe computers to having a personal computer on pretty much every desk. This totally decentralized computing power. But it was really just setting the stage for the true game changer, the internet. Once everyone was connected, everything changed.
And man, this digital wave did not waste any time. It immediately started crashing against these huge, established industries. Take music. You remember Napster, right? It might have been short-lived, but it proved a massive point. Physical things like CDs and tapes were suddenly, well, kind of obsolete. The entire industry had to reinvent itself almost overnight.
And it wasn't just music. The same thing completely upended the media world. All of a sudden, newspapers and TV stations weren't just competing with each other anymore. Nope, they were competing with free, 24/7 content pouring in from all over the globe. Their old business models, the ones built on printing presses and broadcast towers, they just started to crumble.
But maybe the biggest shakeup of all happened in retail. And one company, as we all know, led the charge: Amazon. Its absolute mastery of e-commerce and logistics didn't just challenge the local brick-and-mortar stores. It completely rewrote the basic rules of how we buy and sell, well, everything.
So, okay, this huge wave of disruption made the economy incredibly productive, which brings us right back to our central mystery. If businesses got so much more efficient, if that economic pie got exponentially bigger, who was actually getting to eat it?
There's a core economic concept that really helps explain this. Economists call it skill-biased technical change. Now, put simply, what it means is this. Unlike old machines that just replaced muscle, this new digital tech acted like a supercharger for highly educated workers. But for folks doing routine, predictable jobs, it became a dead end. And you can see how this split the workforce into 2 completely different paths. If your job involved abstract thinking, say you're a software architect or a financial planner, these new tools made you way more valuable. But if your work followed predictable steps, things like data entry or assembly line tasks, you were suddenly really vulnerable to being replaced or having your job outsourced. Now, this tech shock didn't happen in a vacuum. It actually collided with 3 other massive shifts that were hitting the American workforce at the same time. First, you had the hollowing out of manufacturing. Second, the explosion of the service sector. And third, a whole new era of globalization, which was supercharged by all that new digital connectivity. This table really says it all. Think about it like this. The old model, symbolized by a company like U.S. Steel, provided these high-wage, secure, unionized careers. The new model, symbolized by a company like Walmart, created millions of service jobs, sure, but they were often low-wage, non-union, and a lot less secure. It was a fundamental change in the quality of work available to a lot of Americans.
And at the exact same time all this is happening, workers were losing their leverage, their ability to bargain for a better deal. Union membership, which was over a third of the workforce back in the 1950s, just collapsed. This basically stripped away the main tool that workers had to demand their fair share of those huge productivity gains they were helping to create.
Now, it is really important to get this. This wasn't just some natural thing that happened on its own. These trends were actively accelerated by policy choices. Free trade agreements made it almost frictionless to move factories overseas, while the legal climate started to favor management over labor, putting a hard ceiling on blue-collar wages.
So, what happens when you combine all these powerful forces?
A technological revolution, a restructured workforce, and policies that favored capital over labor. What was the result? Well, the numbers paint a stark, unavoidable picture of a great economic divide. Okay, let's get into the hard numbers here because they are staggering. Between 1979 and 2007, the top 1% of American earners saw their wealth absolutely skyrocket by 275%. It nearly quadrupled. This is where the lion's share of all those new productivity gains went, straight to the very top.
Now compare that to the middle 60%, the heart of the American workforce. Their gain over that exact same period, just 40%. So let's put those two numbers side by side, 275% versus 40. That's not a gap, that's a chasm.
And if you want to know what threw gasoline on this fire, look no further than tax policy. Here's why. Most of us, we earn our money from labor, from a paycheck for a job. But the wealthiest often earn their money from capital, from owning things like stocks and real estate. So when capital gains taxes were cut significantly, it created a system where money made from money could grow way faster than money made from work.
You know, there's this great quote from the activist Grace Lee Boggs that just captures the heart of the issue. The technology itself was just a tool. It was neutral. It was our policy choices, or maybe the lack of them, that really decided who was going to benefit from all the efficiency it created.
So, where does all this leave us? We're left with a really fundamental question. We know technology can boost the economy like crazy, but we've also seen how it can concentrate wealth and leave a lot of people behind. And this forces us to ask, who is all this productivity really for?